Welcome back to the Car Edition YouTube channel. Today we have got an EcoBoost Fiesta in. This is for a wet belt. Let's take you through it. This is on 49,000 miles. Let's see how bad it is. What we'll do is we'll get the headlight out just to make your life a little bit easier. We can put the second wing cover on, tap the top side to get the injectors out, spark plugs, all of this heat shrink for the exhaust. Because what I want to see is what the cap bolts look like to the turbo, because sometimes they strip. So let's see if anyone's been in there. I just got to jack it up quickly just to get to the bottom heat shield bolt for the exhaust. Currently doing some work on the floor because I'm waiting for the ramp because we've got wet belts, wet belts, wet belts. Let's just start it off here and we can get on the ramp. Akush did say there would be some exhaust modification, didn't he? Because apparently this guy who owns this car is a mechanic. There's definitely some exhaust modification, so we'll see how well that holds. It's good. That is meant to be that hole there. It's meant to have 4 bolts holding on that turbo. It's only got 3. You can see where that's meant to go. It matches the others. 3 have come out, but that one I'm pretty sure has pulled the thread. Well, it hasn't pulled them, but it's definitely damaged them. So we'll run a tap through that before we put it back in. So now we'll disconnect the battery, start doing top bits, get the cam out. This one, and then just hook. Tightest boost pipe clamp ever from Ford. The cap comes off. Tuck that in there, out my way. This pipe take off now when we go underneath. Hook over there for now. While we're up here, disconnect some of this wire and loom. Take the 2/8mm out that we can see for the plastic cover for the fan belt, and then get the cam cover off. Unplug the injector wire and loom. Now we get fuel pipe, fuel rail, fuel pump off, cam box off, cam cover off, dipstick out. Probably going to spray a little bit of fuel out. Don't panic. This is the sacrifice mechanics make. Take a perfectly good screwdriver and make it into a tool that we need. And if it works as the tool that you need, it was better than that original screwdriver anyway. Leaves everywhere and shit. We'll blow all of that out now. And we've got the 2/8mm on the fuel pump, the ring of 10mm for the cam cover, and then that can come off. A lot of our questions in the comments about all of these wet belts is, when do I need to replace it? Now, unfortunately, there's no real definitive answer because it all depends on your service history. It all depends if you're not the first owner, how well it's been looked after previously. But we are kind of recommending between the 60 to 70,000 and every 5 to 6 years, just so that you know you're on the safe side. I think when they originally come out, they were 10 years, 100,000 miles, like the old Ford belts were, but unfortunately these are not making it to that. So if you've got one, stick to the 5 or 6 years, 60 to 70,000 miles. So on the top of the belt here, you can see a couple of little bits. Nothing crazy in the edges here. You see where it started to eat it away. It's definitely not the worst one we've seen, but it's definitely due. When we're timing these up, on the bottom of these here, there is a QR code. They need to be facing upwards. That's how you know you've got the cams roughly in the right place. But what we'll do now is our lift should pretty much be available. So we will get on the lift, get the exhaust off, get the sump off, get it timed up. So we've got a couple of little bits like this little plastic bit. Move some of this wiring out of the way, get the throttle body off. And then we go underneath and take a look at the exhaust and see whether it's going to give us issues or whether it's actually going to help us out. Well, I mean, it doesn't leak. Yeah, that bolt's not long enough. It doesn't even come through the fucking nut. This one's all right. It's not that bad. I've seen worse. The worst bit is that it doesn't even come through to the.
I mean, it's on.
It is on. Let's get the oil drain, get the exhaust off, get the sump off. Bish, bash, bosh. that's the exhaust off. Somebody's been in here because that aircon pipe is not where it's meant to be. It's meant to be like bent further that way because, yeah, it's a tight gap, but normally the exhaust will pretty much come out of there as long as you move that forward. Somebody's bent it. So I'll unbolt all the aircon pipe and stuff first, and then it will come off. Said it before, I'll say it again, when you're strong as like me, you don't need no tools to take the fan belt off a Fiesta. Now we just need to hope and pray that none of the aircon pump bolts snap, because again, common problem. Fingers crossed. It's probably gonna snap. So the back one's good, which is fine. If only one of the front ones snaps and doesn't come out, you can just run these on 2 bolts. Seen them before on 1. We'll do everything in our power so that this doesn't snap. A bit of vibration on it. Let's heat it up. And the cap comes out. We can cable tie this over here. Once we've got this boost pipe out of the way. You can see some tiny little bits in the corner, nothing too major. We'll empty the oil out the sump, see if there's anything in there. Let's pop this cover off so we can give it a proper clean. So you can see the bits a bit better now. It's just started to break up. There you go. Right, get the crank pulley undone. When we take the crank pulley bolts off, I'm not actually taking it off, I'm just loosening it. To shove a block of wood up here on the com rod, we get our EcoBoost screwdriver, we shove it in there on the flywheel, and then we just rather than getting the torque multiplier out and having to worry about that just to get it off, you can just do it this way. Just enough to break it loose. We'll time it up. I turn the engine over till the QR codes get to the top of the cams. About there somewhere. We'll pin the crank and then we'll put the cams on. We take this blank out at the back and we put our pin in. Right, so that's our pin all the way in on the crank. Wind the crank until it stops, which will literally be nothing. That is it there. Just as a reference point, because it is free floating, you just give it 2 little marks. Guide, tensioner, alternator, just like that. The alternator will stay there, out of the way. Just supported that on the gearbox there. We've put a tray under here to catch what comes out from the water pump. Okay, so the short one sits on the front, the longer one sits on the back. Then what we'll do is we'll get our bolts started in here, do these up, get them started by hand. Last thing you want to do is cross thread them. We can lock in our tool. Once we've got that locked like that, do this up. Just nip them. There we go. So that is everything locked. Now what we need to do, water pump pulley, water pump, engine mount, timing cover. Hook that there. Water pump pulley off. Water pump off. Now, because we're loosening off some crank pulley, we should just be able to get a little gun in here and just crank pulley and bolt. One, cover. So here we have the actual belt, and this again is very similar to the fan belt. When you're strong as f, You don't need any tools to take it off. You see here, it's starting to crack and fray. I think this guy's pretty much caught it bang on time. A little bit there, look. Other side. Always in the corners, innit? If you've seen any of our other videos, you'll know the corners is where it starts to go, and then it all just eats away at it. Now on these EcoBoosts, if you haven't seen any of our other videos again, in here, behind a little 6mm Allen key, is a turbo oil feed filter. Just a little gauze filter in there, so what we'll do is we'll take this Allen key bung out, and we'll check that too. One of them. Oil pump belt does the same thing. Just starts to crack and eat away at the corners. Just there. You can see that's clean. We'll give it a little spray with brake cleaner and put it back in. That in there. We've seen a couple before, haven't we, where they haven't put them back. They're probably thinking, oh, just stop it from blocking up. Yeah, but then it goes to the turbo, don't it? So you're cutting off your nose to spite your face. And we literally just nip this up. It's on like a tapered thread. Right, so there we go. Now we're just on a clean up mission. Get all of this cleaned up, get the cover cleaned up, get the sump cleaned up, and then we can throw it back together. Crank seal out. Let's go for a breakdown of the parts and what you get on the EcoBoost package at the car edition. Water pump, all from Ford. Tensioner and timing belt with new bolt. Then you've got your front crank seal. You've got your diamond washer, your cam cover gasket, the little rubber O-ring that sits in the timing cover, and of course, your oil pump belt. It's a hell of a lot of stripping just for these parts, isn't it? You think, what's the fastest we've ever done one of these? Just over 4 hours. Ingenium timing chain is 5 hours. 1 hour more, you've done a big 2-litre diesel rear-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive timing chain than what it is for a fucking EcoBoost. Absolute joke. One of them, and a bolt. We were waiting on this before we'd done the parts list, but we also fit a new crank bolt. Always put the writing so that you can read it. This will all be loose because the tension is down here. As long as this is tight, that's fine. And then you just pull the pin. Final bit of cleanup before we put the cover on. O-ring. Just a little bit of grease around O-ring on this water housing. So then you just need to follow the torque procedures for the cover, and don't forget to put these two in the back because it's a lot harder to do when you've got everything together. Ask me how I know. What we want to do now, see, this is why we do it. We go underneath, we make sure that the 2 marks on the flywheel are at the same point. If they're not, we move them to that point. We put the diamond washer on, we put the crank pulley on. We want to just do it up with our battery gun, ever so slightly. You don't want to do it up properly yet. Then we'll turn it over and we can check the timing without having to put everything back together, because then if you've got it wrong, because it can move, because it is all free floating, then you haven't got to take everything back apart. This way, it's just nice and easy. Our marks are slightly out. So then what we want to do is we want to get this in here. Bosh them back to where they're meant to be. And now we can put our diamond washer on and put a crank pulley bolt in. Make sure our pin fits in here nice and freely. And then we take the pin in the crank pulley on there like that. The bolt there. And just slide it in. And then because, like I've mentioned before, I'm strong, I'm just going to torque this up with my hand. Right, so now to check the timing. So we take the top off, we take the pin out of the back, turn it over 4 times, make sure that everything still aligns. I've made a small mark on the crank just so I know when I've turned it over 4 times. See where it's completely flat? It's not like there on one or there on the other. It's completely flat across the both. That's another way of checking your cam timing. So now we'll get underneath, get that pin out, turn it over. So we're coming up to it now. We just put our pin back in the back, turn it over, and it's stopped. Our marker line's there. Our 2 marks also align on the flywheel. And our cams are completely flat. There is no gap in there whatsoever. And also make sure that your crank pin goes in, that's in the pulley. So there we know we're timed up properly. New water pump, new bolts. Now let's go up underneath, get the sump on. If you just look up here, this is how perfect you apply the silicone. Nothing too much bulging through, but just enough so you can see it. And it's like that the whole way, both sides, just a nice thin bead on the inside to stop any of the oil getting out. Now we've got a little bit more cleanup under here on the bottom of the block. Wipe everything, scrape everything, wire brush everything. Always got to make sure you do this before you apply any silicone. Last thing you want is a dirty surface for the silicone to go on, so then it won't set and you'll have an oil leak. So for the sake of brake cleaner and a bit of tissue, make sure you do it. I always put a little bit on here where the timing cover meets the block. Same as the top, I always put that little bit extra just so it will seal. Doesn't work too well taking them out. So that is the engine sealed up now. Give the silicone the best chance to go off. Before we put the cat on, we're going to go up top. We need to rethread the turbo, don't we? Because if you can remember rightly, one of the studs started to pull the threads. This one here, look, you can see where it's just started to go shiny. Last thing we want to do is cause any problems. It's going in nicely all the way through. So let's go and clean these studs up. Wash this off, put the new gasket in. Take that back in there. Just a tiny little bit of grease. Help the O-ring for the injectors go on. Last thing you want to do is split them. And this will just fall on like that. This is what I was on about. Milwaukee doesn't like the plastic. It just has a complete shit fit. No idea why. Put that back in there. That clips on there. Put the safety pin. Put the cap in. Now, a little tip when you're doing these, always just leave the cap loose and undone. That's why I've come down and back. Because if you have it bolted up underneath, this might be sat at a slight angle, and then these will pinch a thread very, very easily. So the looser you can leave this, the better. Leave them slightly loose, go underneath, bolt the rest of it up, and then we can come and do them up. Okay, so that's the bottom all done now. All we need to do is go up top, last finishing touches, let the silicone dry overnight, put the oil in it in the morning, and then it'll be good to go. Take this off, put the headlight back in. We literally just need to wait until the morning for the silicone to go off, and then we can fill it with oil and coolant.
The next day.
We're on the next day now, just putting the oil in, making sure it's at the right level. We're just above the maximum, which is exactly where we want to be. Let it run through the filter. All right, so that's it, topped off the coolant. Now all we need to do is get on the key, start it up, make sure it runs all right, bleed it up to temp. Let's reconnect the battery. So we've got the fans blowing, temperature set to hot. We'll leave this running out. What we'll do is we'll check it for leaks, get it running up to temp, make sure that the air comes through hot inside the car, give everything a quality check, and then give it back to the customer. Thanks for watching.